Wait, what?
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Mindful Ignorance Podcast. It's your boy Tony Oak.
It's your boy Fred Sua.
And we did a thing.
We did a thing.
Yeah. So this is the rollout first episode. Man. So we like to start out with a little bit of a mental health check. So, how's your mental health doing?
Yeah, honestly, man, I'm blessed. I'll say I'm blessed to y'all folks at home. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Life's been well, and honestly, it just keeps getting better. In my opinion, in my past, it was always going down. So for some reason, life is just good, So I'm grateful, man. But what about you, man? How's the mental in your life right now?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty solid right now. Recently going to therapy a little bit, just kind of working some stuff out. Got to see a baptism today, which was beautiful.
Baptism.
Went to church, got one with God, got closer to God a little bit. Still a little nervous about getting my first baptism. I've never been baptized. So I'm kind of a little nervous about that. And I almost jumped in today, but it didn't feel right.
Interesting. So baptism in regards to, is this for the folks at home, what type of baptism are you talking about, for a certain religion?
Yeah, so I'm Christian, or try to be at least. And so what we saw today was a water baptism. So they kind of, the pastors kind of just dunked them in the water. Yeah. There's about 10 of them, so there was a lot of people there, but it was just aggressive. It was dumping them on. It's just you found Jesus yet? Not yet. You found Jesus yet? You gotta get. So I was ooh. So, and then right at the end, the pastor looks around and goes, "Is there anybody else that wants to get baptized? Anyone else feeling God flowing through them?" And it felt like everybody was looking at me. When you go to church and they give you a sermon, you feel like they're talking to you. It felt like everybody was all eyes were on me, and I was
So everybody look to your neighbor and ask him if they were
Yeah, my uncle, shout out to him. He was really but he told me, he was you'll know when you're ready to do it. So I don't think I'm quite there yet, because I feel like if they dump me in there, the water gonna start boiling. They're woo, oh, he strippers in his past. Hold on now, brother, go ahead and dip him again. We gotta dip him for about 30 more seconds.
Okay.
Yes, no, that was a joke, but so yeah, I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. Because I don't know, I just feel like it called to me earlier this year, and then recently it's been kind of wait for the right time to do it. So
if you were to give the folks at home something to contemplate if they had an interest towards this, what would be your why, and what would be a goal that you would like to attain from being able to pursue being baptized? Do you feel, is there a process behind it? Is it a life stance? What would you do to promote this? Or do you feel that it's worthy of promotion? For example, the pastor's saying, hey, if anybody out there is ready, for example, do you feel, what is it that you came to terms with, so you can look at the audience, or you can look at other people and say, hey, I think this might be your time? Or
right.
Would you have any words of advice, some advice for people at home?
I would say just if you are a devout Christian, or if you're somebody of faith, and you feel like the time is right for you, or you feel like there's a change in your life that's happening, or something in your life that's calling you to do it, I feel like that's, you should pursue it. Because I feel like for me, it was once my life started changing, I started being more aware of my mental health, more aware of my childhood, the traumas, everything. I feel like after that transition, it became more apparent, okay, now I want to give myself to God, because he's been taking the wheel for so long now, and really letting go and not having control and allowing God to just take over is what I would promote the most, is if you feel like there's a transition in your life happening, or a change in your life that's really happening, then I think that's when if you feel like you need to be baptized, or you've never been, it just, and for me, it was just I don't know, I just had this dream where I was drowning, but I came up, and then I just saw a light, and then I remember I woke up from the dream, and I was okay, so maybe that's me wanting to get baptized, or I was maybe I was just drowning in a dream or having a nightmare, but I didn't feel scared in that it felt more of a dream than a nightmare. It was just more of a awakening. So and when I talked to the pastor, he said it was, baptism is a reawakening of a new self, a new body, a new form. So, and I feel like I'm the closest to God that I've ever been now. So I feel like it's time now. Yeah. So,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Honestly, I mean, and it's awesome because, you know, we like to start off our shows here with, you know, a nice little mental check-in. And I mean, what other way to get splashed with some mental check-in than, you know, to go through and literally get splashed in water to be baptized again. So I mean, I think that's wonderful, man. So
Especially
power to you
men.
on
I
that.
appreciate it, man. And I especially feel like, especially men, especially black men, we don't focus on mental health too much. That wasn't what we were raised on. You know, when we were little, it was like, oh, you feeling bad, go outside. You're like, you're sick, go outside. You know, you in trouble, you can't go outside. Like, so I feel like having that balance and that stabilization, it helps to really reform who you are and your childhood, take care of your inner child and stuff like that. And that's just stuff that I've learned over the years.
Yeah, man. Life experience.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, bro. So we did this thing. We started this podcast because we felt like, you know, we wanted to reach an audience and talk to like-minded people. So mindful ignorance. I need to know, because I want to say like I was part of the creation of it, but my brother here was like the main one that just kind of came. He gets in these flows of freestyles where it just like it comes to. So how did this like come about? How was this like?
So,
you know, what is the explanation behind it?
You know, what I found wonderful is when you meet like-minded people, like there's a synergy that goes around between, you know, people who have a goal set in their mind of what to attain or where to be in life. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy, like I don't care about status, it doesn't matter about race, it's more of where someone is mentally in regards to getting to that next level in life. So for example, like I feel every human being when we're born in one way. You know, we're raised by our society, we're raised by the people who put their hands on us, like mentally, physically, and we are raised to copy and paste and basically try to perfect whatever it was that we were being raised under versus, you know, mindful ignorance. To me, I feel like, you know, I've done so much research and I've looked into, a lot of different scholars and doctrines, and what I've come to know recently was, you know, mindfulness is just that ability to have the capacity to give everyone love and equal attention, in an unconditional way. You know, to accept everyone for who they are, no matter where they are in their life. Because at the end of the day, you know, we are all doing our best to try to get to where we want to be, but instead of having to tear each other down to get there, we can build each other up, you know? So, I mean, for me, like, what I've learned in a lot of different philosophies was, you know, ignorance to me is something, there's a saying, ignorance is bliss. And, you know, I feel like to add on to that, I feel like ignorance, it's limitless, but it also creates limitlessness. Yeah. But yeah, basically, so I feel like, because like ignorance, you know, when people
the unlimitedness.
Exactly. Exactly.
The limited unlimitedness.
Yeah, because, you know, I feel like when people don't know anything, they'll just go. Like if a kid's in a candy store, they don't know what the rules are, what a law was set by a man. Right. So if they see candy, they're just gonna go and grab candy. Like that's just because it's what they want. They don't know any better. So as an adult, that same thing happens for people who don't know any better. Like if there's money there, they're gonna go and cake. They're gonna get money. They're gonna go do whatever they want. Right. But I feel like when society gets their hands on you, then they say, hey, you can't take that unless this, and that. You know. So for me, I feel like ignorance, it creates limits, but then also is unlimited. You know. So I feel like the more that we know, you know, we know enough to keep ourselves structured and to be alive, but we don't know anything. Like to me, I'm learning at the end of the day, like we don't know anything. So like meaning in a way of being ignorant, you know, like I'm an ignorant individual myself, because if I say I know something, then I feel like that means I know nothing. Right. Versus just having an open mind and going out there and learning. So I can say I know everything about this woman that I want to pick up on. I know nothing about her. I know where she came from, where her background is. I just know what I'm being presented with at that moment. Like you, like, you know, I have no idea what you're thinking right now, but I can act like I know. So I mean, I feel like, you know, for comfort and for our convenience, we have abilities where we like to talk to each other and to speak in a certain tone because it makes us feel like we're at home. But at the end of the day, you know, life to me is about being individual, like just being an individualizing and or individuating. Like it's like being able to to decipher that, like, I am alone at the end of the day, but I can choose to come together with people who we have that same like-mindedness.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that's a scary thought, though, man. Like the aloneness, like when you brought that up, that does, because at the end of the day, everyone at the end of the day is alone. So it's like, you have to have that self-awareness of like, okay, like I have to be my individual self. I can't lean on someone else to bring something to me or to give me something.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it really is just you. Like you can only live within yourself. Like you said earlier, you can't read what I'm thinking, and it's very true because sometimes like we'll try to read someone's mind, especially women. Like you try to read their mind, and it's like, hold on now, like you can't read my mind, baby. Like
you think you know?
I don't know, but some women like I feel like intuition. Women have really strong intuition. I don't want to make this like a sex thing or nothing, but I feel like as a man, I wasn't innately built with that. I feel like we have instincts, but I feel like intuition is something I wish more. At least men would be more cognizant of, or if we were innate, like to tap into it more, like because like the women in our life, they have so much intuition where they could see something so far out coming, and then not be able to like, especially my mom. My mom is like one of those people. She could tell you like the future. Yeah, she could tell you the future, and it's like, how do you know these things? The intuition, and as she gets older, it gets stronger. It's like the black lady from the Matrix. Like she's just like the oracle. Like, but for me, I'm like I could walk out and then like the bus could be coming, like down the street. My mom like, watch out for that bus, and I'm like, what bus are you talking about? Ain't no bus coming nowhere. And then it just zooms by. But for me, my instincts will kick in when the bus starts to get closer. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta protect, the people around me. I know, but it has to be so close. It has to be something that's almost right there before I even react. To where it's like, intuition is something that's stretched out. Like you could almost say it's like future, like seeing the future almost. So
and honestly, I mean, on that note, I feel that everyone has their own style in life. Like I believe that we're raised certain ways. There are people who are raised with wealth, people who are raised in more humble, impoverished beginnings, but there's a structure there for everyone. And I feel at the end of the day, when people can come together to understand that regardless of how we're raised, we're human at the end of the day. Like at the beginning of the day, we're human. So like we all have blood, we all have energy, we all have emotions that we share. Everyone has anger. We're all built with anger. We're all built with sadness, joy, everything that we need inside of us. And I think a lot of it is when mindfulness comes to the table. For example, I believe in the evolution aspect of certain aspects of the mind when it comes to women. Having that evolution to be the nurturers, the people who tend to the flock, the people who tend to the tribes, the people who are there to protect the kids from fire. Like while the men were hunter-gatherers in our earlier days. So women, what you're speaking of, like that makes sense. Like, I feel there is on a level a heightened intuition in the women. If the woman being able to, I know what you're doing. Like, how does she know? Like, how does she know? I'm not doing nothing. But even if it's a woman that you're dating, like they'll sense like why something off. Now I'm with the ability to utilize intuition for the good of mankind, but a lot of people, I feel like we get so stuck in our ways that women will use intuition as a way they weaponize it. So they're like, I see something's different about you today, young man. It's cracking right there. Like, you talking to someone else versus a man can just be having a bad day. Or maybe your football team lost today or something. But I feel like women
you're giving off the vibe
you're doing something. You're doing something.
There's a vibe that's off where they're like, there's a glitch in the matrix. Like, hold on now, my spider sense.
And then, for men who are raised in an insecure type of manner, because I feel like, we have to be dominant and masculine in our own ways.
Well, that's what we think, but a lot of men aren't dominant.
No, exactly. So I feel like we try to compensate for it by complaining back, and then that basically kind of takes us away. It tears down our walls, and we become like, we start to fear what these people might have intuitionally on us, and then we're like, wait a second, did I do something wrong? Oh, I did do something wrong. Oh man, how does she know about that? So I feel like it goes hand in hand, but it's a matter of how people decide to decipher things. But that's mindful ignorance. Who am I? He's like, I don't know anything.
And I feel like right now, where we're at right now in the time of everything that we're doing, it's like everyone against the hierarchy or the patriarchy of man and woman. It's like for us as men, we've innately built this thing within us from generations of being hunter-gatherers, where now we're in a time where it's almost not okay to be a hunter-gatherer or have that mindset. But it is, I feel like, in certain aspects, because I think even women that have that instinct or to be able to be hunter-gatherers, I think that's the strongest thing I've ever seen. Because I've seen women that were like that have that masculine, or what is perceived as masculine trait, and they're very dominant, they're very alpha, and it's like it's the most interesting thing to see, because not only do they have intuition, they also have the instincts with it too. So. But I feel like now men, I think we're kind of straying away from that mindset, because we're trying to appease the women, or we're trying to appease or try to bend ourselves, when if we were just our authentic selves without trying to harm or hurt anyone, then we would still give off that masculine energy. Because all the alphas I know in my life were perceived, whatever word alpha is associated with being a leader, the people that I've seen in my life that do that, they're the most compassionate, most sympathetic people that I've ever met. Like, I consider you an alpha. You're one of the people that can actually lead and with a compassionate mind, and like I've seen you talk to so many different people of all races, creeds, sexual genders, and they've all come to a center point where it's like it's universal. There's a universal language, and you were still able to maintain that you were still who you were at the end of the day without having to change yourself. So I feel like now, as men, I think we should just be more authentic to ourselves. Unless you're a creep, I don't know about that. That's a whole different. You guys can keep that's a whole different. If you like to be creepy and freaky, go ahead and keep that right there in that little circle. But just find like-minded people to share those common interests. Just don't bring that over to someone who's uncomfortable with it.
Honestly, and I'll say to attach to what he's saying right now, what I've noticed, especially when it comes to ignorance, the term of ignorance, which is, you simply just don't know, is I feel like we cling on to what we do know because it's familiar to us, so it doesn't matter if it's drama or if it's a toxic household, and I have heard so many things in the past where people, when they talk to each other, if you are willing to play the game and entertain the battle, you're basically, it can go on forever. That's why they call it a vicious cycle. At some point, the only reason that people would stop is because of death, or just because they choose retired. But if you wanted to argue it, because I'm working on removing argument from my life, it's tough, man, because I want to argue so many times, but I'm trying to integrate debate, more dialogue, so we can have common ground versus I'm trying to go into this conversation I want to win, So I'm coming out of that mindset, but I feel like it's funny because you can go so deep, in a conversation, you can literally justify everything, and with respect to what I've been reading, especially in different doctrines, like the Bible that I've been reading too, it's there's so much interpretation in there, I was reading that book with an open mind. I'm definitely going to go deeper in it, since you brought up your baptism.
Man.
But man,
it's a lot of parables,
justification. Exactly. So it's kind of like, you can read it for the literal sense that it is, but you can also read it from an open mind, open heart. But I just feel like if the Bible has these words and messages, and it's it makes sense that, to me, I can see why normal human beings would fight in the corner, on the street corner somewhere, or why people would fight in cars, because I feel like you can justify everything, what you said right now. If someone's a freak, whatever the definition of someone a freak is, that person, if they believe in themselves enough, they're I sleep with people because I need to make money, And then other people are okay, well, that's the oldest career on the world. That word, career? The oldest profession in the world. But there's other people who would argue it and say no, there's a negative and a positive to everything, but for me it's just kind of mindful ignorance is, hey, I'm aware that I was triggered and I gave you 10 minutes of conversation, but why am I talking? There's no need for it. So hey, God bless you, and get on your way, But dude, you could take that to a whole nother level where people can justify everything, And I mean, for me, that was my hardest thing to listen to people talk. There are people who are going to agree with you. There are people who are going to disagree with you. There are people who are just kind of have a neutral stance with you.
Yeah.
But for me, I was raised where I needed everyone to agree with me. Like, and I needed to make sure that I was in people's favor. You know, and I understand. I'm learning why now. But man, like when I would hear people speak, it's trippy when they can go so deep into their conversation of why they can justify something that I did not believe in, and I would fight them on it until I believed it, versus I can just let them believe what they want. So yeah, man, it took time, but I'm respecting it. So for me, like when I hear what you're saying, it's all power. It's all power. I feel like that's where we're at right now.
So now the thing, I have this thing too, because and like I said, I'm faith based. So if you're not faith based, it's completely okay. Like, this isn't a Christian podcast. You're gonna hear us talk about some crazy stuff in our life. We've lived hell of a lives. Like, so I don't want anyone to construe this with just religion, or this is just a perspective that I see because I attribute religion to a lot of my perspective. So I believe that we're all made from everything in the world, right? Like, God created us from everything. We're almost the universe. Like, we've made. So it went back to what your point with fighting or seeing people fight. Do you think there is parts of us that have these animalistic things that kick in? Like, because me, I felt like sometimes I have a wolf in me. Like, it just like a certain part or an animal will kick in, or like, in the bedroom, the gorilla might kick in, or like, I don't want to get too explicit.
In the bedroom,
but sometimes you get the ooh.
I'm Bambi in the bedroom.
Like sometimes the animalistic instincts, like, do you think, like, because I've had people like, no, man, you're crazy, like, but do you think that people can tap into those, like, animalistic instincts? Like, because I definitely feel like if we're part of everything, like, we're going to have those traits or those genetic, like, it's going to push us towards, like, something. Like, I mean, some day you're a giraffe, other days you might be a lion. Like, your hair might be
my personal opinion, which with what you're saying, it makes sense. And I feel that I think you brought up a while ago when we were talking about this is like when we were back in our college days, but it was you spoke about reptilian brain, and certain aspects. So I feel like we have every human is born with
not the aliens, like, the reptilian,
every human is born with primal instincts, and I feel it's real. Like if a woman sees that her kid, and to me, I attribute those primal instincts. I associate them as the emotions that we are created with. So fear, for example, fear is, I heard an acronym a while ago back on fear is FEAR, false evidence appearing real.
Okay. So
for me, that blew my mind. I was like, false, because fear, it is the what if, it's the unknown, but it's that void, and fear basically promotes anxiety in your life. So for me, I feel that when fear is activated, because fear is an emotion, it leads to anger or it leads to sadness. And I think when we associate primal instinct, it's like if you're hungry and you're trying to hunt a boar, for example, from our primal days, and that boar gets away, and your family, that your family needs to eat, or you guys are going to suffer. Like your anger, I feel like it kicks in, and emotion kicks in to want to go and be ready to pounce on that boar again. So I mean, but again, I always take it back to me where I'm like, primal instinct, and I'm okay, but then I'm like, so I don't know anything. Mindful ignorance, I can be mindful of what I believe is comfortable and good, but then I can also be like, I'm just an idiot.
Right. Well, I tell you what, boy, when I'm off that Hennessy, boy, I feel like that lion be coming out. I'm like, rah! That Hennessy, that boy, the beard gets a little bit longer, the hair starts.
I didn't end up drinking tea for a reason, man. Like,
I know, my mama cheers you on that to the tea. I got something in my glass.
When I was on that Hennessy, let's just say it wasn't the Hulk. Oh, I'm sorry, it was the Hulk.
It was the Hulk. It was definitely the Hulk. So he was the Blamoan Hulk, the Black and Samoan Hulk. And if anyone's on camera is getting this confused, I'm actually not Samoan. There's actually one person on camera that is part Samoan here, and it's not me. I know everyone, like, every time we get this, like, question is like,
speaking of
I'm
that,
human.
Why don't we stop right there really quick? Tell them what you are, because I feel like this is something that the world needs to know. I mean,
I'm half legendary. I'm half him. I'm half Himothy, a quarter great. I mean, I think a fifth is just amazing. So I'm Japanese and black. So, and see, this is the thing too, where the primal thing, because man, sometimes my brain, it goes in so many different directions, and I think it's the Asian side, because my black side, I feel like is pure instinctual. Like when I'm tipsy or when alcohol's involved, the black side is completely out. You could attest to this too. Like there's a different person when the alcohol's involved. But when on my normal day in life, it's just an Asian. I feel like I'm more Asian. Like I see myself as more Asian because I carry myself more in the Japanese, like respectful, like quiet. But the black side is definitely it's like a firework. It's lit.
Okay.
And then it's just like pure instincts. Like
so, I would say to dig deeper on that. I, for example, I see within you. Do you feel that both sides of your life? So you were born with American black, and
which is part Geechee, which Japanese. I just found out. So that Gullah Gullah Island, the TV show, that's actually a real thing.